welcome back to another episode spotlighting entrepreneurs on their journey, their business, and how they're helping their community. So, today I'm super excited to have my guest Benjamin with us today. Benjamin, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely happy to be here, Macy. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, Benjamin and I connected through LinkedIn, and then we connected and we had a call, and he was just sharing all about his expertise, and it was something that I had no idea about. So I was super excited to learn then, and so now I'm excited to share it with all of you. So why don't you kick us off and just tell us a little bit about your journey, getting to where you are today, to what you're doing, and I'll let you explain that.
Sure. So I started my journey, my career in chemistry, really. I was doing a PhD in chemistry at Columbia University, and I was just loving the lab work and everything like that. But something was missing, which was an additional component, which is I'm actually interested in law as well. So I decided, well, I just found this to be very interesting, this law field, and I'm going to go and audit a patent law class at the Columbia Law School. And I did that, and I kept putting more and more energy into learning more about law and specifically patent law because at the time I was working on trying to patent my own work, my own chemistry research. And so from that moment on, I kind of kept on taking the right steps forward, like taking the LSAT, taking the patent bar, and things of that nature. So then I got a job in a boutique intellectual property law firm called Frommer Lawrence and Haug, and I started working there as a scientific advisor. And I went to Fordham Law School at night. For it was a 4-year program, and
Wow.
I got my law degree in 2017, and became licensed in New York, New Jersey, and now I'm licensed in Florida as well. So I have a few states under my belt, and I just keep on going. I enjoy the job. I enjoy the intellectual challenges, and I really enjoy helping people obtain intellectual property assets.
Wow, that's so cool. So, if there's anyone out there who doesn't really understand what patent is or maybe the importance of patent, can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Article 1, Clause 8 of the Constitution calls for patents. Actually, it's in the Constitution. So patents are pretty well protected in this country based on our Constitution, and they are descriptions of inventions
Mhm.
that can provide claims that would be protected, meaning a person has a right to exclude someone else. It's exclusionary to say you cannot buy, sell, or make or import this product or this process that I have intellectually claimed. And the United States government gives its stamp of approval on these things because it's a deal. It's sort of like you're giving your secret sauce up to the government, and you're putting it on paper. And really, it's not just to the government; it's to the entire public,
Mm.
such that anyone can then practice the invention. But by doing that, by giving it away, you're granted like sort of what's called a legal license to exclude others from that for a period of time, 20 years. That's the length of time that you have, and that's what's given. And that length has changed over time, but that's what it is now. It's
Mhm.
20 years now. It hasn't always been that way.
Was it longer or shorter before?
It was shorter. It used to be
Oh.
17 years. Yeah.
Oh, is there a reason they changed it to 20 that we know of, or it was just one of those things that happens?
It's over time. Remember, the patent system is hundreds of years old. It goes back to 1790, right? It's at the
Oh,
beginning of
yeah.
the Patent Act, when the Constitution was written, and the patents have been around for a long time. So the system naturally evolves, to cater to the more modern era. And in fact, there was a recent act called the America Invents Act in 2012, that went into effect in 2013, that changed patent law quite a lot in the United States, and it made everything go in line with the rest of the world. It brought America from a first to invent
Hmm.
type of system to a
Hmm.
first to file. So now, so that really brought everything in line. So the first person to file their patent at the patent office, they win. It's like the race to the office. So that's what I like to tell people is like, you gotta file early, file
Yeah.
early, file, yeah, get it in early. Good
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah. What's it? Early bird gets the worm. Is that what it is?
Yes, ding ding, early bird.
And I'm sure other people out there are also similar to me. And the first time they really heard and understood what a patent was when they were watching Shark Tank. That's really where I got the grasp on the importance of it. So do you want to share a little bit on like why would someone, not why, but like when is a good time for someone to start seeking out a patent in the process of maybe their invention or whatever it is that they're doing?
Sure, Macy. So a good time to start thinking about patents would be when you have a viable invention.
Mm,
Anytime the invention is viable and works, something that works, if it works, then it could be patented. So the truth is that even if it doesn't work, even if you have the idea alone, it's possible that one can patent that. But I like to tell my clients, if you have an idea,
mhm,
not quite sure it works, if you can reduce that to either a prototype
mm.
or an initial round of testing that gives you some evidence that the idea, the invention, the process, the method, or device, or manufacturer works. That's when you want to really start writing down exactly what it is, and then keeping it confidential and handing it over to an attorney to draft a patent. It's a good
Oh.
idea at that point, but hopefully it'll be early enough such that nothing has been disseminated to the public and
Mhm.
it's all just done in a confidential way.
Wow. Okay, that's super cool. I mean, this is really interesting to me. I think it's super cool to hear how other, I don't know, just all of these areas in general, how they operate. Like we all have general ideas, like I had a general idea of how this works, but to hear the actual steps, it's like, wow, it's super cool for me. I'm curious because you started out in chemistry and now you're in law. Um, is there anything that you learned, through chemistry that helped you with when it came to law? Is there any like overlap? You're like, wow, I learned this in when I was doing chemistry or anything like that?
Thanks, Macy. Well, yes, I believe that from chemistry
Hmm.
itself, um, it's a good discipline to learn and to have a structured methodological understanding of the universe. But I think the PhD program as a general program helped me in law because in the PhD program, it's really like they throw you in the deep end and then you have to just produce research, and it's sort of like your own, it comes from you. Like you do have a professor and they do assist you and they give you ideas, but a lot of it comes from you. So I found that to be a good springboard to law, because in law, a lot of the work is also self-generated. It's self-thought. Like, I'm not being told what to do exactly, and I have to sort of come up with ideas and plans and share them and get people on board. So it's a similar process. So the training for the PhD was great training for to become a lawyer, believe it or not.
I believe it. That's why, like, I always find it so interesting when people switch professions, or they switch interests or anything like that, is that I find a lot of the things that they take from this completely seemingly unrelated, interest has so much application in what they do now. And you can kind of see where that progression comes from. So I love that question because I just love learning, like, is there anything that you can learn here that you apply there? I had another question about patents. I'm trying to remember it. But for you, like, what's the most fun part when it comes to law? I think it's sometimes people have the conception it's like kind of boring, but I know a lot of people take a lot of pride in enjoying it.
Yeah, Macy, for me, the most fun is really getting my hands on the invention. So when I can go and
Mm.
see the invention in person, which I do often actually, get my hands on it, I could hold it, I could see it, like, that really brings it in, makes it real for me. It's not just on paper anymore. It's a tangible thing. So when I can get my hands a little dirty and you really feel it, and then it really helps actually with framing the pattern and understanding it. Um, really there is a degree of connection where, not only are we visual learners, but we can when we see something, it it can help us put it into words.
Hmm. Yeah, that it does sound very cool to be able to see so many things that I mean don't exist as of currently technically yet. And kind of being in that front row seat of just seeing how everything's operating. I'm sure you're kind of similar to me, just enjoying learning how other things are being done, people's other interests and their passions and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what it is. It's the science and the technology that have continued to expand and grow and become much more advanced than it was 10 or 20 years ago when I got started in this field 12 almost 13 years ago. And so to see the advancements in technology sort of this close to it is has been phenomenal.
I'm sure, and I'm sure there's a lot of people. I mean, you do three states as you mentioned, and all three of those states are have widely talented people. But I'd love to know. This is a question I pretty much ask every lawyer that comes on my podcast. Um, when it comes to seeing lawyers depicted on TV, does like what is your relationship to it? Do you watch any of those? Do you like critique them? Are you like that would never happen, or do you just avoid them altogether?
I love this question. Thank you. Um, I watched some lawyer movies and TV
Uh-huh.
shows. My personal favorite, and I think is maybe the most accurate of them all, is actually My Cousin Vinny, believe it or not.
Really?
Yes, most
Okay.
most accurate, has to deal with evidence and the way things are introduced at court. So it was a very interesting movie. Not only was it that, but it was quite funny. Um, so it has both entertainment and the lawyer value. But some good lawyer movies I've seen recently. The Lincoln Lawyer, great movie. Um, and obviously the TV shows Law and Order and
Mm.
maybe Matlock and those types of shows. They're great. They definitely make lawyering seem fun, but it's not always that high drama and intense. But sometimes it is actually. And the truth is that I've been in some legal case. I've worked on legal cases that went to trial. I've worked on litigations that we're similar in many ways, but it's the kind of stuff that you just don't see in the movies.
Mm. Yeah.
Like sometimes life is more of a movie than the movies. You know what I mean?
True. Very interesting. There's like two sides of it. Either like they play it up in the movies, or sometimes you actually experience a real life case and you're like, oh my God, like they can never kind of show this online. Like, no one would believe it if this was a movie kind of thing. I talked to a lawyer. She does family law, and she was like, a very common misconception is a lot of people think there's going to be a lot more jury than it is in her cases specifically. And I thought that was a really funny answer. People are like, my jury will believe me, and she's like, there's not going to be one. So I don't know what you're talking about, but that's my favorite question because my favorite movie of all time is Legally Blonde. So I always have to ask that question just for my own selfish sake.
Very good.
Yeah. Well, Benjamin, thank you so much for taking the time and really explaining to me how everything works. This has been really fun for me. Just I love all the information dump. So I appreciate you taking the time and educating me and my audience on everything patents and everything you do and how you're helping people with their brainchild and their passions.
Anytime, Macy. Pleasure was all mine. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Of
Appreciate it.
course. Yes, and for everyone watching, I really appreciate you as well, and I'll see you next time. Bye.